seems like just yesterday that Brooks released the original Ghost Max, and here we are already on the third iteration. Does the shoe stay true to the original Ghost Max, or is it more like its second iteration? Today we're going to review and discuss the Brooks Ghost Max 3. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. If it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the review, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back and watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while, but you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today and turning on those notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday through Friday. Now, before I get into disclaimers and disclosures, one thing I did want to ask your help with is for donations for the Tokyo Marathon. If you watch some of my previous videos, specifically my running vlog from last week, you may have heard that I am going to be raising $4,000 to enter through the charity route for the Tokyo Marathon. The way that the Tokyo Marathon charity works is kind of like a blind auction, so you have to bid high enough and then you're on the hook to raise that money, and you do have to commit that pretty much up front. Whether you raise it back or not, they don't really care so long as the bid goes through. So I'm going to commit to raise $4,000, which based off of previous information should be enough to get in, and I'm going to raise $3,000 back through donations on the channel. I will set up a GoFundMe link as well. And something else that I'm doing is I'm going to count and donate any ad revenue that I receive through YouTube for June, July, and August, as well as any affiliate commissions that I earn in June, July, and August through the links in my description below. So if you'd like to help me get to Tokyo by raising $4,000, which will go directly to charity, please consider helping me out on that, as it would be much appreciated. Now with that out of the way, some quick disclaimers and disclosures. Now I did receive this shoe from Brooks for free for the purpose of review. That being said, I was not paid. I'm not given talk tracks, talking points. No one watches the videos beforehand. I'm not actually obligated to include the shoe in any specific content, and all thoughts are entirely my own. Next up, the intended use of the shoe. Now this shoe is really going to be kind of a max cushion, like an easy day, a cushion daily trainer, as well as a potential walking and standing shoe. And that is actually how Brooks categorizes it. So it's supposed to be great for run walk. It's supposed to be great for, you know, easy, some long runs, and just being on your feet for long periods of time. As such, that's how we're going to be evaluating the shoe today. From a price standpoint, we're looking at $160, which puts it right in kind of that premium daily trainer section. So it's fairly appropriate. It's comparable to something like the Hoka Clifton. And then from a spec standpoint, we're looking at 10.8 ounces, which is 306 grams, as well as 39 millimeters in the heel, 33 in the forefoot for a 6 millimeter heel to toe drop. Now, typically I would do an update of shoes kind of between like a comparison video of like Ghost Max 2 versus Ghost Max 3. What I will say, and I'll get into this review, I will differentiate in this video some of the differences between the two shoes, but I would say that they are about 99% the same. As such, I'm not going to be doing a full comparison video, but if you have any questions about how they compare or stack up, let me know in the comments below. Now, moving to the fit of the shoe, this has changed a little bit. Now, the shoe as a whole fits pretty much average. I would say it fits wide for a Brooks shoe, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily like actively wide throughout. I do think the toe box has increased in width a little bit, especially there kind of in the upper or like the front midfoot or forefoot area. I do feel like it's a little bit more spacious there. And then I do think that it fits true to size lengthwise, so I would not necessarily size up or size down. The shoe is definitely wide foot friendly overall though, but I wouldn't call it, again, actively wide, and maybe that's because of some aspects of the upper, which we'll get into in a sec. Again, compared to the Ghost Max 2, I would say fit is pretty similar, maybe a little bit more spacious in the upper as a whole. Now, talking about that upper, what you have is a newly updated double jacquard upper, and I do find it to be maybe a little bit more breathable or on par for the most part with the Ghost Max 2. Now, even with kind of a nice breathable material and that kind of dual layer jacquard, the tongue itself is very, very heavy cushion. Now, why that matters is because all that extra plush, while it gives you a lot of comfort, it is also going to add a lot of extra heat in the shoe, and so this upper is going to run warm. Now, that tongue is not gusseted, but because it is so padded and it is so cushioned, then it actually does lock your foot down in place, and I didn't have any shifting in the shoe. Now, because it's also not supposed to really be a fast shoe, I can't say that you're not going to have some shifting if you tried to go and run your mile PR in the shoe, but at least at easy paces and just kind of longer overall runs, there was no shifting. It was totally fine. The heel cup is really, really nice. You know, you have that nice structured heel, and you have a lot of plush and a lot of comfort there in the heel as well. It's just gonna keep your heel locked down. You can do a runner's knot if you want, but I don't think you would necessarily need it. Overall, very, very comfortable upper, very plush, you know, what you would expect with the Ghost Max. And I do think it's probably the most comfortable of the Ghost Max uppers through the 3 iterations, very similar to the 2 overall. Moving to the midsole, we're looking at DNA Loft V3 or DNA Loft Nitrogen Injected. This is the same overall material as the Ghost Max 2. Something that is maybe a little bit different is like there is a slight geometry difference here in kind of the medial side there. There is almost like a guide rail. You know, Brooks has their GTS, their guide rail system. So you actually maybe get a little bit of light stability or motion control there on the shoe, just with kind of the sidewalls coming up. But all in all, you know, the midsole is pretty much the same sensation underfoot. Initially, I thought it might be a little bit firmer than the Ghost Max 2, and if you've never run in a Ghost Max, then what I would say is it's kind of the soft yet supportive, right? Similar to like the Gel Nimbus. If you ever run in the Gel Nimbus, I would find that, you know, the Hoka Clifton probably to be a little bit softer or a little bit squishier. You know, it is soft, it is comfortable, but it's not just gonna collapse and mush under your foot. You get some nice support on the joints, nice support underfoot there. You know, like I said, initially I thought it maybe was a little bit firmer than the Ghost Max 2, but I honestly think that there's 2 things going on there. One is that I have more miles on the Ghost Max 2, right? I've had them for longer. The other thing is the Ghost Max 2 had kind of this cutout here in the midsole. So when the midsole would collapse, it would kind of collapse around that cutout. The Ghost Max 3 doesn't have that. And so initially I feel like it might feel a little bit firmer overall, but for the most part, the foam is going to be the same general feel and firmness and supportiveness. Now, again, the shoe, I actually just put the 3 down because the 2 and the 3 look very, very similar, especially in these colorways. But, you know, the Ghost Max line in general, I thought that the 1 could pick up the pace a little bit surprisingly. Like for some reason it had a little bit of pop, but for the 2 and the 3, they really are going to be more of your easy recovery day shoes. I recently wore them on the airplane through the airport and on a trip to Mexico, you know, because I wanted something that was going to be supportive underfoot, that was going to be comfortable walking a lot. And so like this is the shoe that, or one of the options that I would be looking at if I were going on a long trip or I was going to be walking a lot, if I was going to be on my feet, maybe if I was a teacher, a restaurant worker, something along those lines, a nurse, right, who needed that support, needed that cushion, was gonna walk around. Maybe you still wanted to go for a run during lunch, right? Maybe, you know, I wore these to work the other day and then got a lunch run in, right? I do think it's gonna be that shoe that you could use as a lifestyle shoe while still actually getting functional performance out of it, right? Overall, you know, it's not going to be the fastest shoe in your arsenal. It might be the slowest shoe in your rotation, but that's really what it's for. It's for those easy days, those easy miles, and just where you need a little bit of extra support. Moving to the outsole, I believe that is a Sport Tech rubber, and you know, the design has changed a little bit. It does feel a little bit grippier than the Ghost Max 2 as well as the Ghost Max 1. All in all, I feel like it did a really good job, or has done a really good job for me. I haven't had any noticeable slippage. It also is not a shoe that I think I would really notice if there was a lot of slipping around in anyway, because I'm mainly going fairly slow in the shoe when I am wearing it. So all in all, gets the job done. I do think that's going to be durable, a little bit more durable than previous iterations overall. Through 30 miles, I see basically zero wear and tear. It is a thick and durable outsole. So, I mean, as far as who's this shoe for, you know, and maybe even throwing in like the my pick, right? Personally, I feel like the Ghost Max 2 maybe has a little bit less cushion. So while it's maybe a little bit less comfortable and the material is maybe not necessarily as breathable, I do feel like, you know, I'm not a huge fan personally of like the max cushion style shoe, right? Of the super plush uppers. It's just not my style. It's not what I like to have on foot when I run. And so between the two, I feel like maybe the Ghost Max 2 is a little like tiny bit more nimble, a little bit less overall cushion in the upper, but it's so slight that really, like, if you like the Ghost Max 2, you're gonna like the Ghost Max 3. If you like the Ghost Max 2, maybe just grab a bunch while they're on sale, because these shoes are very, very similar overall. You know, the reason why you might want to go the Ghost Max 3 is maybe you want a little bit more stability with that kind of, again, the sidewalls coming up a little bit higher. So, or maybe you need a little bit more room in the shoe. I do think the Ghost Max 3 is a little bit more spacious, but all in all, very, very similar shoes. I might lean Ghost Max 2 just because of some slight differences there in the upper. But as far as who's it for, I already kind of went through it. You know, people who are going to be on their feet for long periods of time, people who want a shoe that you can, you know, travel in as well and still get your runs in. If you're going overseas, you only want to take one shoe but still be able to run, Ghost Max 3 could be an excellent option there, right? They literally design it for walking as well, so the geometry is not going to be super aggressive. You're going to get a really nice heel to toe transition there as well. So, you know, can be a little bit of everything, can do a little bit of everything for everyone, but not going to be a fast shoe by any means. Now, just some final thoughts. Brooks has made some major changes to a lot of their shoes this year in 2025. Some of them for the better, some of them I wish they hadn't done, but that's just what happens when it comes to shoes and updates and personal preferences, right? Not every shoe is designed for every person. The Ghost Max 3 or the Ghost Max line, though, has stayed pretty consistent through the 3 iterations, the Ghost Max 1 being the most different from the 2 and the 3. And so at this point, I feel like you can kind of, you know what you can expect from this shoe. I'd be interested to see if they, you know, expand the foam usage in the shoe, if they consider putting something other than DNA Loft, or if because they have the Glycerin Max, the Glycerin Max is just going to be kind of the slightly more responsive version essentially of the Ghost Max. But it will be really interesting to see what Brooks does. They're in a season of change, and like I said, some of it really good, some of it kind of questionable, but for the most part, I like the direction the brand is going, and I'm excited to see what they continue to put out through the end of this year as well as future years. Ghost Max 3, very similar to the 2. I don't think many people are going to be disappointed with this update. Now, if you've watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Please take a second. Let me know in the comments what you enjoyed, what questions you have, or what I could be doing better to make these more entertaining for each and every one of you. And as a reminder, if you'd like to support me for the Tokyo Marathon and donate towards charity, please consider using the super thanks or just using some of my affiliate links below, as all revenue from the channel as well as affiliate links will go towards charity for June, July, and August. Even if I exceed the charity goal, I will donate the excess towards a charity benefiting men's mental health. On top of that, if you've been a viewer and you're not yet subscribed, or you got this far in the video and you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so today. Turn on those notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video. And just to finish this out, I'll leave you with a question, as always, which do you prefer, the Ghost Max line or the Glycerin Max line? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.